Apologize for
He
the,
says they have to be there by 5 for the pickup,
Okay.
and they're dropped off at 7 in the morning.
all right.
Are we ready?
I believe, let me go, yep, your meeting is live, and I don't think we lost anybody while we were waiting, so you're good.
And we're being recorded?
And it is recording.
Perfect. Let's call the meeting of the Public Health and Safety Standing Committee meeting to order of August 27th. Thank you for the minutes. Jody, did you have a chance to look them, oh, well, it was just you and I, 'cause Doug wasn't here.
Yes.
They looked good to me.
Okay. No corrections or anything? Okay.
Chief, any kind of updates, the school resource officer, the stop signs?
Still currently in the works, 2 stop signs replaced, the intersection of Ward Avenue North and 8th Street West. Positive feedback thus far.
Oh,
Good things
good.
Getting used to.
Where's the stop sign?
It's located at the intersection of 8th Street West and Ward Avenue North.
Okay.
And Mike had taken it upon himself, knowing that that street's been the way it was for many years, and stop signs would be kind of tough to get used to, especially as a local resident, so he painted some white lines out there to kind of
Yeah.
show that there is a traffic control device there.
I did have a comment, from Erica Bloom that we saw the yield sign up on the opposite of
There's
it.
2 stops here and a
Yield.
yield with a T going into it.
So like, you know, the yield
Probably
need,
knock that yield down.
yeah, it doesn't need to. be
Yeah,
there.
I actually came to a complete stop and then saw the yield and started to pull, and I went, no, wait a minute, because there was a car coming up at it, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was me specifically going to check out the sign, and it confused me. I'm not saying I'm the brightest bulb.
I know, but yeah, I think the yield
Is the
sign.
yield on Word?
No, on the
It's on 8.
on 8,
It's on
yeah.
8th Street West and probably faces eastbound.
Faces west,
Faces west.
so it's coming up the hill.
Yeah, there's a yield sign there. There was always a yield sign. So you had to yield
And it
to
faces west?
faces
Yeah,
going up.
if you're
going up
driving
the hill.
west,
On
You're
8.
driving west.
You're
which
driving
way
west.
the sign faces, because it's
Yeah.
the sign faces east for westbound traffic. Now we're communicating, sorry. I'm adopted.
It's okay.
I'm adopted.
I was just going over that in my head, and I'm like, that sounds odd.
Yeah,
It's
I
the
was,
back
I
of
was
the
thinking
sign.
in terms of it faces for traffic heading west.
The sign is for westbound traffic. Got it.
Dave was
You guys-
going in reverse, other than that, it's fine.
I get it, that's fine.
It's why he gets off the road for the Stillwater bus.
Right.
Did you guys have a chance to look at that 4-way stop possibility at Hauser and,
By the post
12?
office?
The
How-
ones, I looked at.
Post office?
Yeah, I looked at the intersection. It could go either way. The ones that, I spoke with Mike yesterday in a meeting, we're kind of moving into the stop sign placement slow. The other area of concern is 18th and Adams Avenue South, that Jody has spoken about.
Yeah.
And then there was, email sent to Jody that she put out on the thread for us to read, regarding that very intersection. And then, there was another one at the intersection of, you say it was 18th and Ward Avenue South?
Yeah,
That we were looking at?
you know, honestly, it's any of those streets that come down off the airport, because people that live at the Remington Ranch are
Yep.
using them
Yep.
as an arterial,
Yep.
you know, to get into town. And then people are crossing away, you know, to get to school.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really any of them on 18th and 17th that are any of those uncontrolled intersections. that
Yeah.
I'm sure you've noticed have had fender benders or accidents at.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
to me, I think it's just more about, you know, people are gonna speed regardless. I mean, I've seen them hit 30 right after the stop sign at 19th in front of my house. It's
Mhm.
literally like, so it's not really necessarily gonna control that. It's just, to me, would
Yeah.
help with the accidents, people knowing they need to stop.
If I were to prioritize where we would look at putting traffic control, it would be 18th and 19th, east and westbound. Or just what she said.
18th is near the school, isn't it?
It's
A couple
3 blocks away.
Yeah, but that's people from Remington Ranch come down
Come down the Airport
17th,
Hill.
18th, and 19th to get into town.
Mm-hmm.
And then people are heading north on Adams and Word and McGillen to get over to the school.
Yep.
And so, it's not as much of an issue in the summer as it is 8 o'clock in the morning.
8 o'clock in the morning, winter time too, I mean,
Yeah.
we all know you can lay as much sand down as you please, however,
Yeah,
those really bad days, you can slide through an intersection, not even
Yeah.
going fast.
right.
Yeah, without much effort.
I,
Okay.
I would add to this point, the direction that I have given both Mike and Chief Schrock is, that for them to evaluate the situations we're giving to them, and then, I don't want to be in the micromanaging and telling them how to run their departments. But at this point, like I said, it's just, we're relaying information on. If there's a point where there's a disagreement or council, I guess I don't see the situation happening where council needs to dictate a particular, we want something there or we don't want something there. I'd like to stay out of that if we can, but I don't know that I foresee the likelihood of them reaching a different conclusion, or I don't see the likelihood that council's gonna override what our public works and our public health safety officer.
I
No,
don't-
and I
see
don't
that
think,
either.
I'm not necessarily disagreeing with that, but in my area, in my constituents have been screaming for stop signs at 18th and Adams for
Yeah,
years.
Yeah, and I think we
And
relay
it's-
that on.
Yeah, so.
Another, and like I said, and a couple others that I've asked that they look at are both on Hagan and Platt. We've had, and was it Lolly? What was her name? That, I remember her coming and talking, just because there's an absence of stop signs along those roads, things like the bus, and they take those roads.
Yeah.
That's why he's driving that, not Broadway. It's because,
Well, yeah,
The-
traffic on,
the-
well, and he
the
also
speed.
has to, he turns around and
Yeah,
goes around, but, and in the summertime, nobody drives Broadway unless you absolutely have to.
I would add that I've heard several people question, and I will just relay it on, this is not a direction, it's just relaying on a concern or comment. I have people who question the stop sign on Hauser that's in just a couple of blocks. There's a dead-end road that goes up the hill, and there's a complete stop sign, which I think my understanding, I don't know if it's from conversation or my own research, is probably a traffic flow conversation, that stop signs stop people coming in, but there's people who question the validity of why is the stop sign on the north-south through street as opposed to I want to say it's on 8th. And Hauser, but but
You talking about near the library?
no, like if you're coming down the hill and you turn right on Hauser rather than coming down to Broadway, like if you're going to the grocery store, I'm one of those people who does it a million times. I don't have an issue with it, but there's a stop sign 2 blocks in.
Oh, I know
Um,
which one you're talking about.
Yeah, and
And they blow
for
that
the
all the
record,
time.
it's one of the ones that to me is the worst it's the slippery, it's more of a public works maintenance, because
Yeah.
you can start putting your brakes on literally a full block before you get there and still miss the intersection.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
But it's kind of down where it turns into a 15, but it's like there's a stop sign and then there's a block and then it changes to 15. But I'll just throw that out, that's been thrown out there as one to look at and consider.
Can you name the intersection one more time, please?
I'm guessing 8th and Hauser, but
Was it
Oh,
round?
I know the exact one you're talking about.
Isn't that the one they always blow?
Well, yeah, but I've also slid through that as well.
well, I've slid through it, I've never blown through it, but if you're coming down and you turn on Hauser, I wanna say it's this one right, yeah, because this road comes up to a dead-end road, but the stop signs are here and here. And it wasn't that way for decades and decades, and I don't know if, I guess my request is, let's evaluate it and see if it makes sense, or if that's one of those historical ones that is there as a result of a personality conflict, which there are. Some of
Well-
the assertions are that some of the signs up and some of our signing are who liked who and who had a beef
Well,
with who.
and it's also, thinking that it would slow people down before they hit that 15, like they have to come to
I
a stop.
think that's my assumption, is that it's basically a traffic flow.
You're going into the
But
parks
the
with
15
areas
doesn't
of parks.
happen till here.
I know, but you're going into the parks and you're going into, the children's center, I mean, that's right, and there's churches right there.
I'll just say
I'm
too,
like-
that I've had somebody ran over in that area,
Okay.
and, yeah.
Okay.
Like, I think at that very intersection, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember, I'd have to drive past it to look,
Lots
to
of
remember where I was.
And-
trees
I-
around, it's hard to see, lots of cars are always parked right
And
there.
I think from my
Kinda quiet
position,
there.
and even from a council's position, if we have the ability to say, they have specifically looked at that, they have specifically evaluated in their judgment the stop sign says, I'm comfortable having that conversation. I just, like I said, I'm just relaying on the,
Well, and I've just been telling people, you know, that it's under all the, you know, that they are reviewing certain high-traffic, high-accident areas to see if a stop sign is warranted. You know, if you have suggestions, let us know, we'll pass it on. Doesn't mean that that area is gonna get a stop sign, but, you know, they're under review, so,
That's all.
yeah.
Yeah.
And but I do, you know, personally, you know, when my constituents have been screaming for more traffic control on 18th and 17th, all of those streets that come down, you know, where there's all these, I mean, there's not even two stop signs, they're totally uncontrolled stop, I mean, there's no stop signs at all. You know, those are, and everybody knows we want traffic flow. You don't wanna have to stop at a stop sign every intersection because it's gonna take 10 minutes to get to work.
Yeah.
But, you know, but there's kind of a happy medium, I guess.
Would
you
you
know?
say, and I already have my mind made up, I'll ask you, would you say that it'd be most advantageous to have the traffic control for 18th and Adams, east and westbound?
I don't care. I've been thinking about that, you know, it's kind of more of a pain when you're coming off Adams, which is me, but at the same time, people are trying to get down 18th Street, down into town.
But if they're
They're
moving-
probably gonna be in more of a hurry than I
But
am.
if they're moving at a good clip, it's probably better to have a stop sign for east and westbound traffic than north and south.
I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I've seen people, you know, they come off the airport road, and by the time they hit Adams, their first stop sign will be at Hauser.
Mm-hmm,
I mean, they're not gonna have a stop sign till Hauser, so.
mm-hmm.
And they
You know.
know that 19th has none.
Yeah, and 19th to me is like the perfect way to get into town until you hit Broadway, and then it
And-
takes forever to
and-
pull out. 'cause
and
you
I
can't
do it,
see.
I do it because there's no stop signs, but I also don't speed it. But I
No,
do like
no.
the fact that there's a through street that is a
Absolutely,
through
I would
street.
not want 19th changed. I love that 19th is a through street up to the airport. I wish there were sidewalks and streetlights so you could see the pedestrians walking at night, but
Yep,
that's, you know.
it's something to look at a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm, you know, honestly, I would be fine either way, whatever you guys
Anyway,
decide on
we
that.
thank you for looking into that
Yes,
for us.
absolutely. And if I have to, I usually stop anyway when I'm pulling onto 18th to come in, because
Yeah,
I never
the
know who's
rule-
coming down the road.
Yeah, the rule of thumb is when you are approaching an uncontrolled intersection to slow and check, you're supposed to check to your right
Yeah,
to ensure the right-of-way vehicle.
Yeah.
However, that's not,
If you don't wanna get hit.
Hit.
if you don't want to get hit.
you check to
However-
the left of the people coming
However,
downhill.
yeah, I would strenuously recommend looking to your left as well, because somebody will hit your driver's door.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
that
they-
hurts too.
That hurts a little bit worse, and, you know, a lot of people on the left sometimes don't give the right-of-way, so.
yeah.
You gotta drive for other people sometimes.
We were always taught,
Always.
look, left, right, left.
Defensively,
Yeah.
Always.
drive defensively.
Physics is the law.
Yes, there
Yeah.
you go.
How's your new admin doing?
She's great.
Have you guys figured out how to get her some training on grant writing?
Yeah, so actually, I was going through the minutes from last meeting, and, I went through lexpol.com for their grant writing services, and they offer a lot of stuff.
They do.
Yeah, and it does come with cost, which is not outrageous. I'll look again today and verify that cost, but that website actually has ways to hire a grant writer for you.
I know that they do.
Mhm.
And you're right, it comes at a cost, even though we get a discount because we're with the National League of Cities.
Mhm.
But it's like 10%, it's not, or maybe it's 25, nonetheless, it's not huge.
Right.
The thing I like about Lexipol is that they have that database of all the grants available. So
Mhm.
maybe if the admin could look into that and start looking at what grants are available
Yeah, I can give that to her
and let her play
today.
around with that a bit.
Yeah, I can give that to her today. She's in my office a couple hours a week, She's mostly needed up here in City Hall. But when she has some, I don't wanna say free time, because there's not a lot of that, but when she has a moment where she can do it, I'll have
Yeah.
her take a look at it. I'll send her the website.
Because there might be some interesting grants in there. I know that there's
For
something like
sure.
20,000 grants or something, but
Yeah.
you'd probably narrow it down.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'd like to take advantage of that if we can, one way or another, whether it's just identifying the grant and then figure out who's gonna write the grant, but at least identifying the grants.
Let's be careful, make sure we're not giving directions.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Update on grant for the curb gutter phase
I agree,
stormwater?
though.
I don't know why we would have that in, well, maybe. Have we heard any news on that grant for the curb and gutter for the stormwater project number 1?
Yeah, so unofficially, we heard that we've received it, and they've asked if
Yay.
we've seen the notice yet. Now, having said that, we're talking a month ago. And so, I have a request in with Chad to see if we've heard anything else. And part of it was there wasn't a lot of competition because we were one of the few cities, because of our stormwater work that we did this year, that's in the position to take advantage of it.
Great.
So we've unofficially heard we've received it. It is not in the budget. What is in the budget, and this kind of goes to one of Doug's questions, is we do have our match built into the budget, but just as with the Rocky Fork property, there will be anticipated that there's a budget amendment that says, hey, here's an extra. Because if you look at that 25 million, the other, that includes every loan, every grant, everything that's there. But if it's one that we haven't received yet, then what we'll do is we'll do a budget amendment to put it in there. But you don't put it in until you've got it,
Yeah.
because then you have to do a budget amendment to take it out.
Right.
So,
Speaking of that, have you had any update on Eagles Nest?
yes, and that fits into public health and safety, so we can address it here. And so a heads up, I'll announce this tonight, but we currently have the Rocky Fork Inn closing is set for the 5th. So AKA at our next meeting, it'll be done in past tense. We are getting 75% FEMA dollars and 25%, which means they are getting 100% of their pre-disaster appraisal cost, 0 of which is coming out of city dollars.
Where'd you find the 25%?
That's the right questions. So it's the state resiliency dollars. They actually ran an article last week on the news, you may have seen on Channel 2. We're giving them, it's kind of the same thing as the mine, when the mine people stepped in and are taking care of our flood situation. We're giving them their spotlight to showcase their wares, and here's what they bring, and here's what the advantage is. So with that, I have reached out. In fact, most recently I've talked to Sean was this morning. So Sean Brady and Greg Jones, who's our outsourced planner, I've basically authorized Greg to sit down and help Sean fill out the paperwork and make sure that that's all done. Because Sean has not been real, we'd already told him we would be happy to sign off on it. So before we submit an application, council has to approve submitting the application. And so in
that's
fact,
for the FEMA?
that's for the FEMA grant application. So that's something that will come to council, and we'll be able to get reimbursed for that as part of the cost of doing it. In the meantime, it's a gamble that I'm spending a couple hours of our planning dollars on helping him fill out the application. But he has indicated very much an interest in doing so. The understanding is what we're highly confident of is the 75%.
Right.
But hopeful of the 25, it is the pre-flood
Flood,
disaster.
yeah.
Now, in his particular case, the pre-disaster appraisal and the post-disaster appraisal, don't vary significantly. But the answer is, we're hoping to leverage, and I have a reasonably high level of confidence that we're gonna be able to leverage that into that same conversation and do basically the same thing with the Eagles Nest that we're doing with the Rocky Fork Inn.
And
just for the record, publicly, I do my best to refer to it as the Rocky Fork Inn. I mean, the Bastions are the property owners. but I want the emphasis to be on the project and the acquisition and the land, not necessarily the people that are benefiting and getting dollars in their pockets. But again, the other side of that message is, it's not local dollars that's going in their pockets. I mean, it all comes from us. We all pay the taxes,
Yeah.
but we pay the taxes one way or the other. Our job is to see how many of them we can get back.
Get back.
The whole point of this, program is to make the property owner whole by buying their property at market value. It incentivizes them to sell it and not try to rebuild in a flood way.
And therefore protect the rest of the public downstream, because
Yeah,
they're not gonna be.
exactly.
And here's the question on Eagles Nest, is those properties that are along Broadway are not in the floodway. Is he even considering doing, a subdividing
So
that parcel
we're-
to save those?
So there's actually multiple properties along there. He owns one
Correct.
along Broadway. There's also McMillan property that's on there.
Not McCampbell.
McCampbell, sorry. And interestingly enough, what do we got? Oh, and I'm not, if we get some time, what I'll try to do is pull it up in the background and I'll join the meeting. I'm happy to share, we have, the map that's currently in effect was last updated, I wanna say in like 2002. Having said that, what they updated was the timestamp. It's basically the map from the 80s. We actually have access to the draft map that was about to be released until the flood happened 4 days before, and they said, rip that up, it doesn't count. But we still have access to that map, and I'm happy to share that, with council or anybody who's interested. I can come pull it up and share it with you. I don't know that the maps, I don't know that everybody has an accurate understanding of what is and what isn't that's in there.
Yeah.
What I can say is, if I were a betting man, what I can say is that the draft map that they put out nails where the flood was actually gonna happen. It's surprisingly accurate, about what is included and what is not included.
But not what
And with-
happened on Broadway.
Oh, no, it's spot on.
Yeah.
Really?
If I pull up the map and share it with you, you'll be surprised, and I'll join in the background.
I would love
as soon
to
as I
see
can do that. You'll be surprised how accurately it nailed what happened.
But not all of that's in the floodway. Some of it would just be the special flood hazard area, which means you have a certain percentage chance of flooding every 100 years.
I know.
I wanna throw a disclaimer in. Jody's and past insurance agent, and so
I
she
still
uses
am.
all
I'm
sorts
still
of, I'd say, she's
licensed.
probably still an insurance agent, so she uses different
give that up.
terminology than what maybe some of us
Well, I
are used to.
understand floodway and
So,
Yeah.
flood zone and,
yeah,
and it will happen. That's the floodway.
Yeah.
You're
yeah,
basically in the.
it's a win, so I'll,
Anyway, I was curious whether or not with the Eagles Nest, there was any way of pulling out.
Yeah, my understanding was is that, and this was talking to Courtney last year about it, that, he had, even the way that it was now, there was buildable space along Broadway there that was not in the floodway.
Exactly.
So there is buildable space there. You know, it probably may still be in the the special flood hazard area, what we used to call the 100-year floodplain.
Right.
But it is,
Used to.
yeah, but it's, and honestly, I don't know how that will affect the FEMA grant, because my understanding is that they will only buy what's in the floodway. They will only
But-
pay for what's in
But
the
that might be
floodway.
the best for Sean anyway,
Right.
because then he could save some portion of
If
the property
it's buildable
value.
enough, I don't know how big that spot is with your setbacks and stuff like that.
Well, there's
too.
actually a street that goes through there.
Yeah, so,
Speaking of those two wrecked properties as a whole, this weekend, every time I drove by there were people, I mean, one time was a group of people getting a selfie in front of Rocky Fork Inn, but the second time, there
We
were
do
two
that all
guys
the
getting
time.
out of the car walking towards there.
mhm.
And I did, contact, Tom Kuntz just to say, do we have to declare these as total wrecks? I mean, should they be
Not so much.
fenced off?
That's more of a police problem than it is a fire problem. I
That's
think-
what he said.
Yeah, did he?
Yes,
I-
well, he
well-
didn't say it that way. He said it was private property, so that the fire department had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, so what I would say is that I believe I'm remembering correctly, just by thinking about the property, that there are posted no trespassing signs there.
There are, yes.
So that is a violation of state law. If people are, if people that don't belong there are walking in.
And I didn't
And
know.
it's super dangerous too.
And
That's the whole point. And not, probably,
Well, I think to a certain point, I mean, that's like if you're an idiot doing that, then. like,
Yeah.
I'm just,
but that's what
I mean, there's
laws are
no
about,
state- there's-
protecting the
there's
idiot.
yellow tape, there's no trespassing signs all over it, danger. I'm like, there's a certain point where, you know, you can't,
You can't fix stupid, but also
I
stupid
know.
will turn around and sue the city.
Well, no,
so there
actually,
was,
to the
there was
property
a,
owner.
Well, okay, yeah.
The property owner really should put up some sort of fencing, although now we're talking about.
now you're getting into, what do they call it, an inviting hazard, attractive hazard or something like that.
By fencing?
it's called an attractive nuisance.
There we go, attractive nuisance.
Anyway,
It's like having a swimming pool without, a trampoline without a fence, or a swimming pool without a fence. Kids are gonna go jump on it or go get in the pool and drown, kind of.
and that's kind of what it is right now, is an attractive nuisance, is that,
They still do. They still jump the fence too.
and,
But you had asked a question about, or we've had several, several people, from the, we've had several people, we've had several people who have reached in and you had relayed one of them on about the city needs to go in and condemn that and eminent domain and take it over. And the general answer to that is you need to, A, have a really, really good attorney, and B, be willing to spend lots and lots of money to do it. And you're likely and it's still likely not to be successful. So the answer is the approach we're taking with the FEMA, I anticipate to be far more, and then, once we took it over, you know, do we have to pay them because we eminent domained and took away their property? And even the process of fixing it becomes our liability and we have to pay the cost. And right now, I'll be honest with you, if somebody gave me that property, right now, I don't know that I'd take it, because I think it's as much a liability as it is an asset.
I agree.
And so that question has come up multiple times, but I don't think that it's very, Nadine, there we go.
And we don't want to go that direction, especially since those two particular ones.
So this is a link to a non-public viewer, that is what I'm sharing. Having said that, as I pull it up on the, I'll verify that I'm going here, but anyway, go ahead.
Anyway, one of the things that I looked into was bump outs for safety reasons. I downloaded from the internet some very interesting, ways to paint the streets. Okay, they're a little colorful, and actually, most of them are colorful. These are probably more common.
Yeah, the other one would be like Fourth of July every day.
So I can give you an update of, and those are painted ones?
Yeah,
Okay,
those are all painted.
Excellent.
Bump out.
excellent. And I would love copies of those, so I can give you an update on that. So as soon as the budget is approved tonight, the current plan of activity and maps is that, we've talked about the leveling efforts on Broadway.
Yeah.
That are there, so that is in the budget. And I need to revisit that, to remember if that's coming out of resort tax or, I think it's still streets and water is where we ended up pulling it. We may have split it between streets, water, and resort tax,
It can't be
actually.
gas tax?
For what?
The sidewalks.
I thought it
on-
was all coming out of resort tax.
I don't know,
Yeah, it was.
did we revisit and put it all there?
Yeah, it's all.
We
There
may
was
have,
some pretty
but
stark-
anyway, we are doing that, at which point we are then, Mike is following up with the state and saying, we have now done our part, and here's the additional things we'd like to do. So, and anytime it's the state, it's automatically gonna be long and slow and arduous. One of the things that we're putting in is those proposals, so I would love to take copies of those, if I may, and relay that onto them.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be, because they have to buy off on our plan, we're also asking them to fix the sidewalk down in front of the,
Roosevelt?
no, well, Roosevelt and also the parking for the mine parking.
Because that was
Those are on
taken
there,
out.
so basically those are over 6 foot. But what we're doing is, in essence, doing the stuff that is on our list, and then, going to them, and he's got a fairly long list put together of what our next step is. So we're taking care of that. We're also kind of in that same thing, looking at the roundabouts and the boulevards and stuff that are our responsibility to fix up.
Great.
So this conversation is queued up and waiting to happen. Basically, what we're doing is we're fixing our parts that are safety hazards, and then going to them for their parts that are safety hazards.
Great.
So I think this is a different look, than what I had pictured, just kind of doing stripes in the crosswalks going out, but I like the extra ideas, thank you.
There were tons and tons and tons of, painted bump outs online. And I tried to pick the ones that weren't quite as colorful, because some, like, they've overdone, you know, like, this is the red for don't park here, and this is, I mean, it just, they were pretty hideous,
Okay,
you know, but at least, they're painted, so we can do safety without, ruining the blade on a snowplow.
There you go, maintenance, sidewalk project.
And, let's see,
Yep.
there's nothing, I assume there's nothing that we can do about Jake breaks in the city limits because it's against the state law, so,
did you by chance come up with anything, ideas on how to enforce or things that were within our, if we could provide extra signage at all, or,
For the bump outs?
no, for Jake breaks,
We're on
coming
a
down the
different
hills?
topic now.
Oh.
So, I think it's there was a little bit of a question, I didn't know where you wanted to go with that, we left it on there, but I was thinking we had determined that we really can't do anything more on it,
According to state law, the answer is no.
yeah.
well, then, we're sorry.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I can explain too, if they're, the gentlemen that were here that upset about it, I can explain it to them, but it's just,
It's
that's the way it
something we
reads,
have
that's
to,
the way it reads in Montana Code annotated, and there's really no way around it.
and I know we talked about the speeding enforcement, but it was in the budget to buy those, electronic.
Yes,
I spoke with the mayor about that, both portable and fixed signs, did a little research yesterday and sent him some mock-ups.
So that is something, again, once the budget is improved, we'll have those. The idea is 3 permanent signs on the 3 entrances. The one that is not included in that is, the one coming down the hill, because there's a full stop sign there.
Mhm.
And kind of the physics of the hill tend to slow it down, so we don't see that as big of an issue. There's also, we've looked at some small portable units, wondering if, so we can address the possibility of if people come in and say, you know, hey, we want one in our neighborhood. We've got one portable sign now, that the chief, reports is somewhat antiquated and problematic, and we can still put that in there as a reminder. But, I took some pictures of what they have over in Cook City right now in Silvergate. They have ones that are in wagons, that are fairly small that you can pull around and anchor down. We had a concern about, vandalism at what point, but having said that, the current signs we have with our portable unit have not proven to be vandalistic signs. So we may also get a few of those that we can put in neighborhood X and
Can
Y and Z to help
we
slow
get
things
those,
down.
we use the ones from the county sometimes for street closures. Is that something that you're thinking about too, like, where we could say street closed, event in progress?
Oh, the portable sign?
Yeah,
Oh, that's the DES.
is that who it is? I wasn't sure who it was.
Yeah, they're gracious enough to let us use it.
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah.
See, that might be something that you might find a grant for. Those are the types of things that I'm thinking that, you know, we can take advantage of.
And just because we've had that money set aside, doesn't mean we can't still get a grant for it and
Yeah.
find out.
And
to go
free up
out
that
there.
And free up that
Well,
money.
And you make a note, or you just,
and
you
they
have a good
usually,
enough brain, you remember it.
He's young, he can remember. Us, we make notes. You're laughing.
Yeah.
So true, so true.
Okay, well, good. And we haven't done any more outreach with the police department. And
I didn't stick around for the end, who won?
Regarding,
Did
The-
hoses beat us?
yeah, badly.
I anticipated they would.
Yeah, when they juice their team up with a bunch of smoke jumpers and then practice for the last 6 weeks.
You just kinda go, hey.
Keep in mind, this is a softball game we're talking about with this sort of
I know.
vitriol.
I picked that up a little bit
I'm just gonna go get a
later.
burger and watch you guys play. Have fun.
Yeah, it was pretty pathetic.
Wow.
Embarrassing, huh? However,
Yeah.
next year.
Well, the year before we crushed them and then completely different team this year, so.
You're like, wait, where'd these guys come
Yeah.
from?
Well, and to be fair, the guns were taking off their knee braces and doing their stretches very carefully before we went out, so it was, like I said, by halfway
Yeah.
through the first inning, you knew how it was gonna end, so.
Yeah.
That's really sad.
Yeah.
But it was good fun, was had by all.
So what we need is, we need a high school, junior police department type of thing. What's it called when you have like a,
The, Explorer program?
okay. Can they,
No, you're talking about an exhibition game between the,
no, I mean, they could pump up the police department for that.
if we, so
Bring
if
in
we
the
did have
kids.
an Explorer, then we can include the kids.
I grabbed some of those athlete kids, yeah.
We could
You
include
are
them in
going?
the police department because they're
Yeah,
part
we'll
of the.
swear 'em
Swear 'em
I
in
know.
Yeah.
as deputies.
As an auxiliary officer, yeah.
Do they have to be sworn in to be on the team? Cause what rules did they have for fire? You said they were bringing in.
There are none, it's just it's a free-for-all over there. With us, you had to be a sworn law enforcement officer to play on the team. So we had Fish, Wildlife and Parks, Red Lodge PD, Carbon SO, US Marshal Service.
And you still lost?
Yeah, I mean, like, these guys I was probably the youngest guy on the team,
Oh.
37.
All right,
Wow.
so anyway, go ahead, cause then I can show you the map if you get through everything else in here.
As far as, the public outreach, I have talked to, Denise Rivette, who does that online news thing.
Yeah,
And I made a few suggestions, and one of them was to maybe, interview different police officers and kind of get their backstory, how they got there and how they got here and about their families. Maybe something as far as humanizing our police officers and introducing them to the community,
sure.
just as an idea. And I know you have to tread carefully.
I would leave that up to the officer if they wanna do an interview or
Uh-huh.
not, 'cause a lot of guys don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've had people.
It's the nature of the beast,
yeah,
I know.
it is. Yeah, I've had people not want their.
Yeah, they don't put pictures of their families and kids in their offices.
No,
and they-
absolutely
all
not.
sorts of things.
No, and I can understand that. I wanna humanize them, but I don't
I
wanna
got
target
pictures of my
them.
kids in my office, but I don't do interviews back there, so.
But they're also next to Marlon Brando, so, you know.
That's true, yes. Yeah, Brandon.
So I have a question kind of in general for you, as we go through here, what stuff do you see as being able to come off this because it's been discussed or because progress has been made? Again, just looking, how do we best utilize this 50 minutes?
I would, I'm still sticking on with the school resource officer,
Okay?
because that's,
Yeah, and so, by the way, just to update this group is where we are with that. So we had gone out and met, the chief and I both met with the school board president, who, like the mayor, doesn't ultimately make the decision. He's got a board that's going to approve whether they do that or not. But at the same time, as we had that negotiation, they said they had initially posed 50-50. We said, you want them 75% of the time, it'll be 25-75, and he said, great, no problem. He has very recently pushed back and said, well, Columbus only pays 40% of theirs or something. My position and the tactic and the approach that I have taken, is twofold. A, their money is coming from a different budget. It's not like, are we giving it to teachers or are we giving it to a safety resource officer? So that's it. And my understanding is we're also like the last remaining one in the county that doesn't have a school resource officer. So given that we had previously agreed to it, given that we have built it into the budget, we are passing the budget. I'm proposing we pass the budget as it is proposed. And we go back and say, we pass it in the budget. If you want, as soon as you're ready to come back to where your original offer and agreement was, the handshake agreement that we had in place, we're ready to step up to it. But there's
School
also a
started.
possibility that they may come, and we were set up, in fact, we had even hired an officer as a part-time officer that we think is a likely good fit for them. We agreed that those guys could be involved in that selection process, so there's still a, when they decide to move forward, they'll still be involved and be there, even though it's a city employee, it reports to the city. It's
Well,
not like Gollum.
at the end of the day, I mean, there's grant money out there where the school could have gone out and applied for
And I
grant
think-
money,
and
and
I
it
think
shouldn't
they-
be a choice between a teacher and a school resource
It's
officer.
not,
It
because
should be
it's a whole
two
different fund.
totally
It's out of
pots of money.
It's out of the safety budget instead of.
It's
Yeah.
completely different money, but that's their decision to make, we're not gonna tell them what to make.
Right, no.
But my position at this point is, we're sticking to the original thing we agreed to, and when you
Yeah.
get there, we're ready, and
We're ready.
you tell us when to pull the trigger, and we're ready, but it'll be by the terms we agreed and what we passed in the budget. So
Okay.
that's kind of my position from a negotiation
Sure.
standpoint.
Do we know when the next meeting of the school board is?
I do not.
Because that would
It's
be,
posted on the school site.
Yeah. I have intentionally, not reached out and broadcast, this is where we are, because we have the meeting tonight, and when we're done, when that meeting is done and set and the budget is passed,
then you have
this is
a
a
little bit of
conversation,
free
this is
time.
a conversation we can have, well, it's not even just a free time, it's, to me, our strength of negotiation is this is what we passed in the budget. That exists once we have passed the budget.
Yeah. Okay.
So I would like to see us, in future meetings, you know, I absolutely believe we need to be the liaison between our constituents and this, through this committee, you know, with, you know, if they're bringing up issues type of thing.
And we just need to
And-
be sure that we're doing it not as direction.
Right,
as
absolutely,
your
but I
feedback.
mean, we're just, to me, we're just kind of passing along the information type of thing. And if we can help with any of those solutions, that's what we're here for. But I really want us to focus on, the budget for next year. I think with the resort tax, are we going to, you know, we need to look at those options. Are we going to annex Red Lodge into Red Lodge Rural Fire Department so we can free up $300,000 in our general fund? You know, we need to educate the public on what those choices are, you know, and, do we want to, you know, and educate them on, do we want to put the resort tax back out there for a vote on including public safety as an allowable expense? You know, those two things, I mean, like the mayor said, and I completely agree with him, I mean, it comes down to a choice of how you spend that money, you know, or do we, you know, do we annex, you know, do we push for the annexation, which is a tax increase for them? So do they want the resort tax to pay for it, or do they want basically a property
Do
tax?
they want to pay for it?
Or do they want to pay for it? Or, you know, do we continue as we're going and try to scrimp and save and
And cut?
And
and
this
cut, so.
year, we specifically protected the fire department with the resolution that says we will staff it and we're not gonna cut back on it. There is.
that was the police
I'm sorry,
department.
police department, thank you.
You're like, what?
I know what he meant.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
No, 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 no.
No, I'm just kidding.
The other thing that I would like to see as a direction from the council, and I'm gonna borrow a line from one of the commissioners right now, though, too, that we do what we can afford to do, and that's it. You know, we can't do that which we can't afford to do. But one of the questions that comes up, is enforcement. And we talk about enforcement, I'm talking about everything
Yeah.
from the motor home that's camped on city land next to the highway. Yesterday morning, I didn't see if he was still there last night, but we got somebody camped out in the public right of way. So, but if we're gonna have an ordinance that says there's no camping in the public right of way, there is, and again, I'm the first person to say there is a value in having a law on the books, even if it's not enforced. There's still, you know, there were still
Yeah.
fireworks in town, but did we experience value by saying this is the law and by getting that information out there? But at the same time, when it comes to enforcement, public health and safety, right now, we have something for tall grass that we can send out a letter, where there's an ordinance in place that says, here's what we do, and it can be billed to you. We don't do such a thing for snow, when it comes to camping, when it comes to speeding, there's what direction does the legislative body want to provide to the administration side of things? We want to see more effort done on these, and what does that look like, and how does it look like? You know, so are there I make it a very significant point, and the chief and I have been on scenes before where he says, you want me to cite him? And I try very, very hard to say, that's your job, that's your realm. Maybe talk to the fire chief or talk to the other related agencies that are there. So I don't want to get in the position of micromanaging those groups. But I think it's worth it to say, council wants us to reinforce parking. You know, is it gonna be a self-reporting thing? Is it gonna work like the tall grasses? We're not gonna drive around with a parking meter and put chalk on stuff, but what does it look like? You know, do we make it so that people can file a complaint against a vehicle that's been parked more than 5 days, and they go out and cite it, and then 5 days later, if it's still there, then we take those actions. I think what that looks like is in the realm of the legislative body. Am I smoking the wacky weed there?
No, I just, I guess I kind of, the vehicles that are parked for long periods of time, typically those aren't cited or yellow stickers put on them until they can't, you know, it's snow on the ground and the plows are having an issue around them.
Or a neighbor complains.
Or a neighbor complains because they're, but it's not, I don't know, I've always thought that, I guess I'm more of the opinion that if I park something in front of my house, as long as the plows can, you know, get through, I don't do it all winter long when it's snowing and the plows are trying to get through, and it's buried up to here, you know, in snow, and it's, you know. But I understand what you're saying. If the ordinance is in place, we should try to enforce it.
I don't know, and I don't know necessarily.
Because some of those things, I think they just seem more like homeowner association things than they do like city ordinances.
We don't want to be an HOA, but
Yeah,
there was a very good point, and Sandy made it, and I think one of the other council members made it in a different meeting, that there's a difference between a public health and safety or a public nuisance and a public annoyance.
And an annoyance to me,
But I think that there are public health and safety issues that we aren't.
Yeah, and absolutely, and I don't know, you know, I get a lot of complaints about certain areas of town that are basically hoarding nightmares, and I don't know that we have anything on the books to address those. You know, they're basically a fire hazard when you have stuff pouring out of your garage. And you drive through the alley and the whole backyard is full of stuff, you know.
So interestingly enough, some of those, I don't know that's necessarily a true statement. So there's a house within a couple of blocks of here that has firewood stacked all the way around it, and it was raised to me. I went and talked to it with the fire chief, and we went and looked at it, and his feedback was, that house is no more of a fire hazard than any other house on the block. So just because there's a perception.
Insurance company would disagree.
Well, then then maybe that's it, that's the insurance company's thing to do it.
Yeah, it is, and I mean, we can't go around turning people into their insurance company. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying there are, you know, some places that, you know, a tall fence would be lovely for the neighbors, let's just put it that way. Or if you drive down the alley and you look over and the garage door is bashed in, and there's literally just piles of garbage in the garage. I mean, at what point is that a homeowners association type ordinance or versus a health and public safety type ordinance?
And so that conversation
That's
is
a fine
maybe
line,
just an intro to kind of, as we reevaluate this, there's a lot of stuff that's like Jake breaks. It's carried over. Is it because we came up with a new idea? Is it because we've got something that we're closing out?
We just want to follow up.
Okay. So,
some of those are just follow-up.
But,
we have 2 minutes until this meeting is gonna have to close, so we can
yeah,
take the next one.
I agree, I want action items, and I think I would like us to focus on, you know, what steps can we take to educate the public on these are your choices moving forward, because our general fund is not sustainable the way that it's going, period. So, you know, would you rather annex the city into the Red Lodge Rural Fire Department and have that be on your property taxes? Or would you rather vote on the resort tax and allow some funding for public safety out of the resort tax? And that would be fire and police, you know, to help offset those budgets that we have.
All right, if you guys wanted to look at that map for 2 minutes. So what's up behind you on the screen is what's
I
currently,
just wanna look at yours, because I'm
Yeah.
blind.
this is what's currently, in place. This is the version, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna switch down to the number 3. So basically, if you look at the key over on the left, the green stuff is stuff that was in our current plan from 2000. Red stuff is stuff that will be added, and then blue stuff is stuff that's the same. So I'm on this is
Yeah,
the
north end.
sanctuary north end, so let me go to the south end of town where things happened.
There's islands at Rock Creek.
And so if you look at this red stuff, the land added to, so this
Wow.
blue stuff was already there, this red stuff is the stuff that was added. So when you talk
Yeah.
about what happened down Broadway and whatnot, like I said, that's remarkably,
Show me where 19th is, I think I know, but,
Yes, right there.
19th is right there.
okay.
So this was already in it, all of this stuff would have been added.
Look how it went around the McCampbell property. Because that's the McCampbell property that the red goes completely around.
Well, no, because this is Broadway over here.
Oh, you're right, that's on the other side.
So
How can
the
it
biggest thing,
have
the
dropped part
biggest
of it?
thing that changes is there used to be, many years ago, there was this additional fork that comes out to the west that isn't there anymore. So look how much land gets taken out of that, but look at what got added. Now, I think this will change because of the wall that's here, but this is what was about to be in effect a week before. And it's a little bit over, but if you look at that red that was gonna be added is remarkably close.
Yeah, I did go all the way down to like, between 15th and 16th, because all of that.
Yeah, there was some additional stuff that got it, but it's interesting to me that all of
But that was
this,
only because they they made the water go down there. If they would have stopped the water, you know, they blocked the water, we artificially routed the water
Down 16th.
down,
yeah.
yeah.
Now, what was
Down 15th is where they did it.
Yeah.
what was interesting is if you go down to the bank stuff, it didn't change significantly. So there's some stuff there that was complete blowout, but it really doesn't change significantly. And in fact, if anything,
What are you here for?
yeah, in fact, what happened is it actually gets smaller down there.
Mhm.
So-
Because this is a Ninth Street Bridge that's no longer there.
Yep.
Wow.
So anyway, all
No,
right.
not
Did you forward
today.
it, did you?
No, it's for a
Pass it on to
future
us
meeting,
just so we-
for the
I didn't
supplemental.
because it's not really, if I go to the email and show you the email, it's like
It
the
was
non-public
wrapped up.
version of the
Yeah,
map,
no, but
so
in
I don't
admin
wanna
and finance,
I don't wanna
it's a
yeah, I don't
future
wanna-
agenda item.
get in trouble with them.
We're not, we
This
won't have,
never
we're just doing
existed,
budget
right?
today.
This is a
No,
draft,
'cause
but
I
I
thought
think it's
Dave
a
told me
worthwhile
it.
conversation,
But it's interesting.
It's okay,
so,
it's all right, I don't know.
all right.
And so we're going
You
to
can
call the
stay.
meeting,
I don't want
closed.
Yeah, so here's this is our agenda
That's the one I
for
wanted,
future
yeah.
agenda items.
So I hit the green button, or are you gonna take
Yeah.
care of it?
Yeah.
Today, we're doing these right here.
So then.
Thank you,
Yeah.
yet again.